It's been 27 years since I stood in front of the Achille Lounge babbling into the wind. It's hard to believe that this legendary ship has been gone for almost that long, having perished by fire in November of 1994. Despite, or perhaps in part due to her checkered history, Achille Lounge had a unique spirit and a tangibly soulful vibe. In addition, she was a strikingly beautiful example of marine architecture, despite some latter-day alterations. This beautifully proportioned former ocean liner had a total of 8 passenger decks, beginning at the top with the observation platform, which overlooked the bow from an above-the-bridge perspective. This deck was clearly the place to be during scenic arrivals and departures, although it could get very windy on sea days. For fans of seagoing mid-century Italian design, it also provided wonderful vantages of the Achille Lounge's sculpted funnels and stylized crucifix of a mast. Not many cruise ships provided a bird's-eye view over the bridge wings. On Achille Lounge, these luxuriantly wide platforms were original, dating to the ship's completion as the Dutch liner Willem Reis in 1947. Over the years, many ships have had finned funnels, but few, if any, had a pair of funnels, each with its own pair of fanciful fins. And yet, despite those fins, it was ill-advised to wear white on Achille Lounge's outer decks, where there was no escaping an airborne deluge of diesel smuts. From the aft portion of the observation platform, one could see the ship's tumble home or outward bulge of the hull as it careened through a gurgling sea. The observation platform also provided views aft over the occasional aerobics class on the sun deck and the Portofino Pool area. Bridge deck began with those luxuriant bridge wings. From the port entrance to the wheelhouse, a large brass bell with the ship's name on it beckoned. The wheelhouse was still open for the occasional bridge tour, even after the infamous 1985 hijacking by PLO terrorists. In addition to a combination of vintage and modern equipment, it still had a few leftover bullet holes. And of course, the chart room was directly aft of the bridge. And bridge deck continued aft with officers' quarters. At the far aft end of bridge deck, an open games area was covered with an awning during the ship's final refit. It last was used as a buffet terrace overlooking the Portofino Pool. Bridge deck resumed even farther aft with the sunning and sports platform that overlooked both the midships Portofino Pool and the aft Taormina Pool. On Lido Deck, there was another observation terrace just below the bridge. This terrace was accessed from the port side of the veranda, which was directly aft. The semicircular veranda was an intimate space that overlooked the Achiille Lounge. A grand staircase linked the two spaces. The veranda's angular balustrade framed a series of hand-blown glass chandeliers that loomed over the dance floor of the Achiille Lounge. On the aft starboard side of the veranda, a small bar had long since been sealed off. Large, colorful artworks graced either side of the grand staircase. When the ship was rebuilt in 1965 as the Achille LAURO, she was way ahead of the cruising curve with an entire deck of balconied staterooms on Lido Deck. Lido Deck continued amidships with the ever-popular Portofino Pool and Lido bar area. Farther aft, the Taormina Pool had a children's wading pool and more open sunning space. And from aft Lido Deck, there was a great view over the stern. The forward portion of the Achiille Lounge was expanded into the former games deck in 1984, creating a strange double room. While larger and with numerous intimate alcoves, it was a challenged space for functions and entertainment. If there was a performance in the forward part of the room, the back of the room could not see it, and vice versa. The aft section of the Achiille Lounge still sported its dramatic staircase and imposing chandeliers, but the plush original furnishings were replaced with generic 1980s hardware late in the ship's career. Some of the Achille LAURO's most dynamic artworks could be found in the stair tower landings. In the 1984 refit, shops were built into the forward portion of the promenades on either side. Another interesting and imposing artwork was located in the port gallery connecting the Terrace Lounge with the Capri Bar just aft. This multimedia ensemble was made of what appears to be carved rosewood with bronze and tile inlays. Once flanked by sheltered promenades, the Capri Bar was expanded on either side to the full width of the ship. An ancient map of the Old World was situated directly across from the bar itself. ACHILLE LAURO had wonderful teak-lined sheltered promenades that continued after the Capri Bar on either side. The midships promenade deck vestibule had another interesting stair tower nook with fanciful 1960s design elements. While it was hardly state-of-the-art, ACHILLE LAURO could at least claim she had a gym. This limited workout facility was located off the Starboard Promenade. On the port side, a small Sala Bambini kept the youngest passengers occupied. When we dropped in to take some pictures, some of the young guests were being taught to draw on stationery from ACHILLE LAURO's short-lived fleetmate, Amalfi. The balcony level of the Comet Theater was originally dedicated to first class when the ACHILLE LAURO sailed as a two-class ship. Another interesting stair tower nook with a striking art panel and parquet paneling led to the Ischia Lounge on Aft Promenade Deck. The forward port side of the Ischia Lounge last functioned as a video game room. The starboard and aft portion of the Ischia Lounge served as the ACHILLE LAURO's casino. This strange space was built around the oval basin of the Portofino Pool, one deck above. An old world-style panel of a forest on Aft Prom Deck looks as though it may have been from the ship's first incarnation as Willem Rise. At the far aft end of Prom Deck, the Belvedere Disco had just undergone a modernization by Milan-based Studio Di Giorgio, who would design all of the future MSC ships. Like the Ischia Lounge, the Belvedere was also built around a pool basin, in this case the Taormina Pool, which was directly above. The ACHILLE LAURO's long-sheltered promenades converged at an open terrace that overlooked the stern. The forward portion of Boat Deck had yet another wonderful forward observation terrace. This one could be a bit slippery though, thanks to a combination of sea spray, thick varnish, and the ship's pronounced sheer. The forward portion of Boat Deck was dedicated to mostly outside staterooms and suites. The main level of the Comet Theater began a lineup of former tourist-class public rooms on Boat Deck. Although a bit threadbare, it was a beautiful space with its velour seating, hand-blown glass chandeliers, and multimedia artwork. Located directly after the Comet Theater, the Scarabeus Lounge was another space that had just been reimagined prior to our cruise. Despite some challenged sightlines, this was ACHILLE LAURO's main showroom. In the room's most recent transformation, new seating had been added, and a circular cluster of glass fixtures over the dance floor had been replaced with a colorful backlit panel. An original bronze sculpture was still mounted to the room's aft bulkhead. Reminiscent of those found aboard other Italian liners, numerous textured brass panels were located in this part of the ship. The similar but quieter and less congested Sorrento Lounge, with its long American bar, was directly aft of the Scarabeus. Especially in the aft portion of the ship where there was more vibration, the ACHILLE LAURO's metallic fittings were prone to a rhythmic rattle. Surrounding the aft steering station, there is another sunning area on the bouncy boat deck fantail. Main deck began at the tip of the ACHILLE LAURO's long, gracious forecastle, where passengers could venture at their own leisure. From here, there was a striking view of the ship's layer cake superstructure. Another beautiful brass bell was located here. Long, narrow promenades led aft from the forecastle along either side of main deck under a canopy of lifeboats. A wide range of passenger accommodations spanned the length of main deck. The aft foyer on main deck boasted a large ceramic ensemble. This colorful work was similar to those by the late Genoese artist Emanuele Luzzati, which were found on numerous other Italian ships. On aft main deck, the promenades converged at a sheltered terrace on the fantail, where it could get very bouncy when the ship was underway. The forward vestibule on Foyer Deck was originally for first class only. In the ship's latter years, it was used as a photo gallery. A pair of interesting bronze reliefs surrounded the stairs in the forward foyer. Like most Italian liners, ACHILLE LAURO had a dedicated chapel. Hers was located on midship's foyer deck. The aft vestibule on Foyer Deck was originally for tourist class. Larger than the forward vestibule, it was the ship's preferred embarkation and disembarkation point. At the forward end of the restaurant on A Deck, there was a large expressionist painting of the ACHILLE LAURO. Featuring more of those handsome textured brass panels and recessed portholes, the restaurant was a large space that combined the original first and tourist class dining rooms. A large original oil painting was mounted behind the buffet near the aft entrance. With its proximity to the ship's hard-working diesels, the restaurant was another space that reverberated with a rhythmic rattle. Another textured brass panel hovered over the aft entrance to the restaurant. On Aft B Deck, the ship's lowest passenger level, there were several of the ship's most economical cabins. The engine control room also sported bullet holes left over from the hijacking, as well as some original dining room chairs. This was as close to the bottom of the ship as we would get. We'll conclude this chapter as ACHILLE LAURO makes one of her final Genoa departures in a golden afternoon glow. If you enjoyed this video, please consider showing your support by subscribing to the Midship Century YouTube channel, clicking the like button, and perhaps even ordering our latest DVD, Torn Castle. For more information on Torn Castle and our other cruise ship videos, as well as fittings from recently scrapped cruise ships, please go to www.midshipcentury.com. Thank you.